Hi, and welcome back to the Boileau Family Law Group YouTube channel. Our topic today is Family Lawyer Edmonton preparing for mediation. I'm here with Marla Miller. She is the one of the founders of Boileau Family Law Group, and today our quote is from Deborah Reber. Letting go doesn't mean that you don't care about someone anymore. It's just realizing that the only person you really have control over is yourself. Now, here's a statistic from Stats Canada. According to the latest statistics, 38% of marriages end in divorce. So, with our topic today, Family Lawyer Edmonton preparing for mediation, what's a story that you can help frame this topic for us today?
Preparing for mediation is not what most people think it is. And we're going to share some tips on how you can best be prepared for mediation to get your best results.
Excellent. So, first question that I have for you, Marla, is do you need a lawyer as well as a mediator?
You need a lawyer as well as a mediator, and you may choose to have a lawyer as a mediator as well. So the mediator is a neutral third party that's going to work with you and your spouse.
Okay.
If you've got legal issues to negotiate or mediate, my recommendation is that you retain a lawyer who's a mediator as opposed to another professional. When you come to an agreement, you will need to get independent legal advice. So outside of the mediator that will meet with you separate and apart from your spouse, and make sure that you are aware of what you've agreed to and that you're aware of the options that you could have come up with other than what you've agreed to. And you may want to hire that lawyer right at the beginning and consult with the lawyer at the beginning, and lots of time clients just want to minimize that and they want to wait till the end.
Okay. Now, do you have to hire a lawyer before mediation, or can you wait until the very end? Like, what's the best process there?
The best process is what you feel comfortable with. If you're a little bit concerned about going into mediation without having met with a lawyer, by all means, go and meet with a lawyer first. My recommendation to prospective mediation clients is to at least come into the first meeting. No decisions need to be made at any given meeting. Get a feel for it and then retain a lawyer as you feel comfortable. If people say, I don't want to retain my own independent lawyer till the end, and I think that they need to talk to a lawyer before, right in the mediation, I tell the clients, you better have a chat with your lawyer before. So I'm also trying to protect them to make sure that whatever they come up with as an agreement is something that's going to be sustained by their lawyer.
Yeah, that's one thing I think that's so valuable about working with you, Marla, as opposed to some of these other companies that don't use a lawyer but just are mediation divorce warehouses kind of thing, is you are able to, you know both sides. You know the mediation, you know the law side, so you know how to best give people advice. And I think that's invaluable for somebody who's going through this process.
Well, as a mediator, I'm a neutral, so in the mediation I don't give advice, but I'll give them lots of legal information. But I know when they need the actual advice.
Right.
So I'm like the bumper pads on the bowling alley. I'll make sure they don't go into the gutter and they get the advice that they need.
Perfect. I love that. That's so valuable for you to be able to do that. Now, next question for you is, does a lawyer come with the parties to the mediation?
Again, that's something that is up to your individual preference. I would say that 95% of mediation that I do is me with the two clients without the lawyers present. But once in a while, lawyers will refer their clients to me, and what they want is they want the lawyers to be there to guide their clients, and so we do lawyer assisted mediation. So it's individual preference, but overwhelmingly people come without their lawyers.
Excellent. Now, what should somebody bring with them to a mediation?
It depends on where you are and what stage of the mediation. People often, almost every prospective client that calls me says, what do I need to bring to the mediation? Well, my answer is, at the first meeting, absolutely nothing. Part of what we do through the mediation process is identify the information that's required for your individual case. There are standardized lists of information that you can bring, but I always say one size fits nobody. So sometimes people will run around and chase a whole bunch of information that's not anything that they need, and they're a little bit frustrated. I think chasing paperwork is just aggravating work. And so through mediation, that you and your spouse will agree upon what information do you need, who's going to get it, what date do you want to use, who's going to provide it. So right at the beginning, you're setting up some trust rather than somebody walks into the first mediation, they've got a briefcase full of paperwork, and the other person is suspicious because it came into the office in their briefcase and not in their own the other person's briefcase.
Right. Now, why shouldn't the parties bring all their documentation to the initial mediation?
That's exactly why. What we're trying to establish in mediation is transparency and trust, and you don't want to set somebody up and get their guard up right at the beginning.
Sure, yeah. When you walk into the mediation and one side's lawyered up and the other person isn't, it can be rather intimidating, and it doesn't set the right tone. So the next question that I have for you, Marla, is do the parties meet with the mediator alone or with their spouse? How does that work?
The way that I do it is almost all the time the mediation is with both parties in the room. I will do some, I won't book a mediation appointment unless I've spoken with both clients individually on the phone. I want to make sure that they have some comfort in selecting me as the mediator. I want to make sure that they understand what the process is. Sometimes people will say, we want to mediate, but we just cannot be in the same room together. And sometimes we will do it that way, but the problem with that is that so much of communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching what's going on between the two people. When I'm doing shuttle mediation, where I'm going back and forth between a couple of rooms, that interaction between them is lost, and it can be done. It's better than litigating, in my opinion, but it takes much longer and more cost.
Right. Now, the next question is, what can people do to mentally prepare for a mediation? Because that can't be easy.
The biggest thing that people can do, and this is not work that people think about, well, I got to get my paperwork together. But what I think it really helps is if you can think about what's really important to you. Not, I need the house or I need so much money per month, but what are your core interests or beliefs or values or fears that need to be addressed? If you can get in touch and even write down your needs and interests before coming into mediation, then you're really clear. You know where you need to go, you know what any solution, what components it needs to have, and that's the single most important thing that you can do.
Excellent. Now, how can the clients be assured that they'll feel safe and treated respectfully by the other party?
A good mediator should have rules of conduct and should ensure that people don't interrupt each other, that they don't yell at each other, that of course there's no physical contact, that they are fully listened to, not only by the other party, but by the mediator themselves. And so they will have a clear set of rules of conduct, and they will ensure that that is respected. In situations where people feel that they might be at risk physically, either before or after the mediation, it's important to let the mediator know in advance so that the mediator can make arrangements to ensure that they leave the building and are well away before the other person does, or that they're never left alone in the reception area or things like that. So mediators are equipped to ensure that basic standards are followed, but if you have some concerns, make sure to give the mediator a heads up.
Wow. That's an amazing job that you've got, and I can't imagine being in your position, but you've handled it for a number of years, and I'm just in awe of what you do. The next question I have for you is, how does a mediator help with power or knowledge imbalance?
I think it's really hard to make a decision unless you understand everything and unless you ensure that your needs and interests are being met. So some people think that you can't mediate or you can't negotiate where there is an imbalance, but you can do it if you have proper support. So sometimes that support might be that you work with a divorce coach that helps you to make sure that you've got your needs and interests identified and that you are following what's important to you. Sometimes it's a matter of bringing in financial neutrals that make sure that the financial information that is disclosed is appropriate and they know if there's something a little bit weird going on,
Right.
or if there's holes, and so they help to prop the process up.
Okay. The last and final question that I have for you today on this topic is, what can clients do to ensure that all their issues are addressed?
Well, take notes. So every time you're thinking in the middle of the night, you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach and something's bothering you, take a moment to figure out what is that about and make a note to say, I'm concerned about this, or I need to ensure that that's dealt with. And at your first meeting, you can tell the mediator, I ask all my clients, what are those things that we need to deal with? My clients will tell me, and we'll make sure at the end that we've covered everything. Also, good mediators should know the things that need to be covered on their own, even if the clients don't know.
Excellent. Well, that was very informative, and I learned a lot from this session here, learning between what difference between preparing for mediation. Our topic today was Family Lawyer Edmonton preparing for mediation, and I think you did a wonderful job giving me the knowledge that I would need going forward into a mediation, and I know that you learned a lot from this process as well. So if you are in need of some counsel and looking for a mediator to handle your divorce, I think you should definitely call Marla Miller here at Boileau Family Law Group, and just call and get a consult and get the process started. You've heard a lot of what is involved in a mediation and what you need to bring to that meeting. And if you have any further questions, you definitely should call, because I know there's a lot more questions that you have about this. And if you liked what you heard here, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys next time.